What happens when a billionaire suddenly finds himself under the harsh spotlight of a courtroom, with a judge snapping, "This is a courtroom, not a Twitter thread"? What if everything you built, every word you tweeted, came crashing down in less than a minute? That's exactly where Elon Musk stood, just 1 minute ago, and the entire world was watching. The courtroom was packed, the air thick with tension. Flashbulbs popped like fireworks from every corner, journalists scrambled for a good angle, and social media feeds exploded in real time. Elon Musk, the man who changed the way we think about space, electric cars, and technology, was now facing accusations that could topple his empire. But it wasn't just the allegations that had everyone on edge. It was the spectacle, a billionaire-turned-courtroom drama, with a judge clearly fed up with Elon's penchant for turning serious proceedings into his personal Twitter arena. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? That message was flashing at the bottom of every screen, as millions tuned in. The judge slammed his gavel, silencing the murmurs. "Mr. Musk," he said sharply, "this is a courtroom, not a Twitter thread. I will not tolerate any more disruptions." Elon's eyes, sharp and defiant, locked briefly on the judge before he nodded, a flicker of restraint washing over his face. The moment was electric. For decades, Elon Musk had been a lightning rod, brilliant, controversial, unpredictable. His tweets could launch rockets or shake stock markets. But now, facing serious legal accusations that could cost him everything, he was forced to confront the consequences of his own public voice. Just 1 minute ago, Elon was scrolling through his phone backstage, reading the latest wave of tweets. Supporters praising him, critics tearing him apart, and the endless barrage of news headlines. He tapped out a quick reply, something provocative, something that might shift the narrative. But that one tweet was about to ignite a firestorm that would reverberate far beyond the courtroom walls. Behind the scenes, the stakes were as high as ever. His companies, Tesla, SpaceX, Neuralink, depended on investor confidence and public trust. But the courtroom had become a battlefield for more than just legal arguments. It was about power, reputation, and the fragile line between genius and recklessness. The tension in the room was palpable. Elon sat back, hands clasped, trying to steady his breathing. He was no stranger to pressure, but this was different. This wasn't a launch pad or a boardroom, this was a trial that could unravel everything he had fought for. Outside, social media exploded. Hashtags trended worldwide, hashtag Elon in court, hashtag Twitter versus justice, hashtag courtroom drama. People debated fiercely, was Elon a misunderstood visionary or a reckless provocateur? Was this trial about justice or something bigger, a clash of old institutions against new power? For Elon, the fight was personal. It wasn't just about defending himself legally, it was about defending his legacy, his identity. Every tweet, every public statement had been part of his brand, bold, fearless, often controversial. Now, those same words threatened to be his undoing. The judge's warning echoed in the room, cutting through the noise, "This is a courtroom, not a Twitter thread." The words struck a chord beyond the immediate setting. They captured the tension between a man who changed the world with ideas and tweets, and a system struggling to hold him accountable. What would happen next? Could Elon balance the chaotic power of social media with the rigid demands of justice? Or was this the beginning of a downfall few saw coming? As the hearing resumed, Elon's mind raced through every scenario. His history, the successes and the mistakes, the relationship strained by ambition, the relentless public eye, all flashed through his mind like a fast-forwarded movie. The courtroom was no longer just a legal venue, it was a crucible testing everything about him. For viewers watching live, the scene was gripping. Here was a man at the pinnacle of modern innovation, now wrestling with one of the oldest human dramas, accountability. The question hung in the air, when does genius cross the line into recklessness? And who decides? The courtroom drama promised twists, revelations, and deep emotional conflicts. But more than that, it was a story about resilience. About how a man who reshaped industries could face his greatest challenge yet, not with rockets or electric cars, but with words, justice, and a judge who refused to let the chaos continue. So, what pushes you forward when the world turns against you? For Elon Musk, the answer was about to unfold, minute by minute, in a courtroom that was anything but ordinary. Behind every headline and viral tweet, there's a man whose story few truly know. Elon Musk, the billionaire tech titan, wasn't born in the glow of Silicon Valley or the applause of Wall Street. He came from a different place, with a complicated past that shaped his every decision, and every tweet. Born in Pretoria, South Africa, Elon was a curious, introverted child, often lost in books about space and technology while his classmates played outside. His father, Errol, was a complex figure, a strict and sometimes distant man who ran engineering businesses but struggled to connect emotionally. Elon's mother, May, was a model and dietitian, whose unwavering support was one of the few anchors in his turbulent youth. The family dynamics were complicated. Elon's parents divorced when he was a teenager, leaving scars and unresolved tensions. The boy who grew up reading about rockets and robots often felt isolated at school, targeted by bullies for his awkwardness and sharp intellect. But inside his mind, an entire universe was taking shape, one filled with ideas bigger than anything his small town could contain. By the time Elon was 12, he had already built his first computer game, Blaster, selling the code to a magazine for $500. It was a small victory, but it ignited a lifelong obsession, to create, innovate, and disrupt. Even as a kid, Elon had a restless spirit. He didn't just dream about the stars, he wanted to reach them. But those early years weren't easy. The pressure to succeed, the loneliness, and the complex family relationships laid the foundation for a man who would later push boundaries in every area of his life. Fast forward to his college days in Canada and then the United States. Elon's determination led him through multiple degrees, but more importantly, it pushed him into the world of entrepreneurship. His first startup, Zip2, was born from late nights coding in cramped apartments. The drive to escape mediocrity fueled him, and success came, sometimes too fast. That early hustle introduced Elon to a world where ambition sometimes clashed with empathy. His relationships were intense but often strained. He loved fiercely but struggled with vulnerability. Friends and lovers found him inspiring but intimidating, brilliant yet difficult. One person close to Elon once described him as, a man with the mind of a scientist and the heart of a loner. He was always chasing the next big breakthrough, often at the expense of personal connections. The loneliness that marked his childhood never fully disappeared, it simply transformed into a relentless work ethic and, at times, a volatile public persona. This inner conflict is crucial to understanding the man on trial today. When Elon tweets, it's not just a message, it's a window into his restless mind. The rapid-fire bursts of ideas, jokes, and sometimes sharp criticism reveal a man who is deeply engaged with the world yet sometimes disconnected from its consequences. His public image is a paradox, visionary yet unpredictable, admired yet controversial. This complexity fascinates people and fuels the media frenzy around him. But beneath the headlines, there's a human being grappling with the pressures of unprecedented fame and responsibility. Elon's relationships reflect this duality. His marriages and partnerships have made headlines, not always for the best reasons. Each relationship brought joy and heartbreak, shaping his views on love and trust. Friends who have stood by him speak of moments when Elon's brilliance shone brightest, and others when his intensity pushed people away. Family, too, plays a pivotal role. Though distant at times, Elon's connection to his mother remains strong. May Musk's public support and private counsel have been a lifeline amid storms. Meanwhile, Elon's complicated relationship with his father adds layers of pain and unresolved tension that still haunt him. This backstory is essential because it reveals why Elon sometimes acts impulsively, especially on platforms like Twitter. His tweets are often an extension of his personality, raw, unfiltered, and charged with emotion. They can inspire millions but also ignite controversies that ripple far beyond a 280-character limit. The courtroom confrontation we saw today is not just a legal battle. It's a clash between a man who thrives on innovation and risk, and a system that demands order, restraint, and accountability. Understanding Elon Musk means understanding this tension. It means seeing beyond the billionaire label to the human being beneath, a man driven by ambition, haunted by past wounds, and struggling to find balance in a world that watches his every move. As the judge barked, "This is a courtroom, not a Twitter thread," it wasn't just a reprimand about etiquette. It was a challenge to a man whose life has been lived very publicly, often on his own terms. What comes next depends on whether Elon can reconcile these parts of himself, the visionary and the vulnerable, the disruptor and the defendant. Because no matter how high you fly, the gravity of reality always pulls you back. Elon Musk's journey from a curious boy in South Africa to a global tech titan is nothing short of extraordinary. But it was never easy, or straightforward. It was a path marked by relentless ambition, high-stakes risk-taking, and the constant pressure to prove himself in a world that wasn't always ready for his vision. After graduating from the University of Pennsylvania, Elon moved to Silicon Valley with one goal: to change the world. His first venture, Zip2, was a software company aimed at helping newspapers publish content online. It wasn't glamorous, but it was a start. Working out of a small office with little more than a couple of desks and laptops, Elon poured every ounce of energy into the startup. He worked 100-hour weeks, often sleeping under his desk. Despite the long hours and the strain, Elon's determination paid off. Zip2 attracted the attention of major investors, and in 1999, it was acquired by Compaq for nearly $300 million. Suddenly, Elon had made his first big fortune. But this was just the beginning. Next came X.com, an online payment company that later became PayPal after a merger. Elon poured his money and energy into the venture, envisioning a future where money would move as quickly and easily as email. It was a revolutionary idea at the time, but it came with its own challenges. Internal battles over company direction and leadership led to Elon being ousted as CEO. It was a crushing blow, but instead of backing down, Elon doubled down on his dreams. PayPal eventually sold to eBay for $1.5 billion, and Elon walked away with a hefty payout, but more importantly, with a vision for bigger things. What set Elon apart was not just his ability to innovate, but his willingness to bet everything on ideas most people thought impossible. SpaceX was born from his obsession with space travel and the dream of colonizing Mars. Tesla Motors followed, aiming to revolutionize the auto industry with electric cars. Then came SolarCity, Neuralink, and the Boring Company, each one a bold gamble. The risks were staggering. SpaceX faced multiple rocket failures, nearly bankrupting the company. Tesla's early models were criticized for quality issues and financial instability. At times, critics called Elon reckless, accusing him of biting off more than he could chew. Yet, through sheer grit and refusal to quit, Elon pushed forward. His companies began to succeed, capturing headlines and public imagination. SpaceX made history by landing reusable rockets, Tesla's electric cars gained mass appeal, and SolarCity promoted clean energy solutions. But success came with a price. The relentless pace wore on Elon's personal life. His relationships suffered under the weight of his ambition. Late nights at the office and constant travel made it hard to maintain stability. Friends described him as both inspiring and exhausting, a man who demanded perfection from himself and others. In public, Elon became known not just for his innovations, but for his unpredictable personality. Interviews and speeches revealed a man who could be charming and visionary one moment, then blunt or controversial the next. His tweets, especially, became a window into his restless mind, sometimes insightful, sometimes impulsive. It was this mix of brilliance and volatility that made Elon Musk a unique figure on the global stage. He was not just a businessman, he was a symbol of the new frontier, where technology and ambition collided with risk and controversy. As the courtroom drama unfolded, this history loomed large. The man defending himself was not just facing legal charges, he was confronting the legacy of a life lived at full throttle, with all its triumphs and mistakes. The question for the judge, the jury, and the public was whether Elon's bold risks should be celebrated or punished. And for Elon himself, the trial was a moment of reckoning. Could the man who reached for the stars also face the consequences of his earthly actions? The courtroom was no longer just a stage, it was a battleground. Tensions rose as the first sparks of conflict ignited between Elon Musk and the legal team opposing him. What started as a civil proceeding quickly evolved into a high-stakes clash between power, personality, and principle. The charges against Elon were serious, accusations that some of his tweets had manipulated stock prices and misled investors. Regulators alleged that his impulsive social media posts had caused chaos in the markets, costing shareholders millions. Elon's defense argued that his tweets were opinions, protected by free speech, and that the stock fluctuations were part of the unpredictable nature of markets. But in that packed courtroom, it wasn't just the legal arguments that drew attention, it was the clash of two very different worlds. On one side, a tech billionaire who had built empires with vision and daring. On the other, a system bound by rules, precedent, and caution. The judge, Judge Harmon, was a no-nonsense veteran with little patience for distractions. The moment Elon tweeted during the proceedings, Harmon slammed his gavel and barked, "This is a courtroom, not a Twitter thread." The words echoed through the packed room, sending a ripple of shock through the crowd. Elon's defiant smirk faded, replaced by a flicker of frustration. It was clear he was used to playing by his own rules, and being told to behave was a new challenge. For years, Elon's tweets had been a powerful tool, launching products, rallying supporters, and stirring controversy. Now, they had become ammunition against him. The prosecution called their first witnesses, investors who claimed Elon's tweets had caused confusion and financial losses. Their testimonies painted a picture of market instability, with one investor describing how Elon's words sent Tesla's stock price on a wild roller coaster ride. Elon's legal team pushed back hard, arguing that markets are inherently volatile and that investors should not rely solely on tweets to make decisions. They highlighted Elon's role as an innovator and risk-taker, suggesting that some risk was unavoidable in groundbreaking industries. As the conflict intensified, Elon found moments of hope. Supporters outside the courtroom rallied on social media, flooding hashtags with messages like #SupportElon and #FreeSpeechMatters. His defenders argued that silencing Elon would stifle innovation and the free exchange of ideas. But those moments of hope were quickly challenged by new revelations. A leaked email surfaced, revealing internal discussions at Tesla about the impact of Elon's tweets. The email suggested that some executives had urged caution, fearing legal repercussions, a glimpse into the tension within Elon's own empire. The courtroom drama was unfolding like a high-stakes thriller, with each new piece of evidence turning the tide. Elon's struggle was no longer just about defending himself, it was about preserving his vision and credibility in the eyes of the world. The media frenzy only intensified the pressure. Headlines swung between praise and condemnation. Opinion pieces debated whether Elon was a misunderstood genius or a reckless provocateur. Public opinion was divided, adding fuel to the courtroom fire. For Elon, the stakes couldn't have been higher. Every moment in that courtroom was a test, not just of his legal strategy, but of his ability to navigate a world that demanded accountability, restraint, and a different kind of leadership. The first sparks of conflict had ignited a blaze that would shape the entire trial. It was a story about ambition and consequence, innovation and responsibility, a story that was only just beginning. The courtroom crackled with tension like electricity in the air. The clash between Elon Musk and the legal system wasn't just a dispute over tweets anymore, it had become a battle for control, reputation, and the future itself. Elon sat at the defense table, eyes sharp but betraying a hint of weariness. Across the room, the prosecutors pressed harder, their voices relentless. They painted Elon not just as a reckless tweeter but as a titan who had recklessly gambled with investors' money, abusing the power his words carried. The judge's gavel echoed again, punctuating the heated exchanges. "Mr. Musk," Judge Harmon said sternly, "your actions have consequences beyond your personal platform." That was the turning point. Elon's team brought in experts, market analysts and social media specialists, who testified about the complex interplay of technology, communication, and finance. They argued that the markets are influenced by 1,000 factors, and no single tweet should be singled out as the cause of market swings. But then came the emotional testimonies from employees and former insiders, people who had worked side by side with Elon through sleepless nights and high-stakes launches. One engineer described how Elon's intensity could inspire breakthroughs one day, and cause chaos the next. "He's brilliant," she said, voice trembling. "But sometimes, it felt like we were caught in a storm with no warning." The courtroom listened, captivated. Elon's public persona, the fearless innovator, was now seen through a more nuanced lens. The man who could send rockets to space was also a man wrestling with his own demons. The media pounced on these revelations. Opinion polls shifted. Some saw Elon as a misunderstood genius pushed too hard by a system unwilling to keep up. Others felt the trial exposed a recklessness too dangerous to ignore. Social media exploded. Supporters rallied with memes and hashtags, while critics dug deeper into Elon's past tweets and controversies. It was a digital battleground mirroring the courtroom drama. For Elon, the pressure was immense. Yet he seemed to feed off it, pushing back with sharp comments during breaks, reminding everyone why he had risen so high, because he wasn't afraid to challenge the status quo. But even Elon's closest allies sensed cracks. The relentless pace was taking a toll. Private messages leaked showing Elon confiding doubts and fears, rare glimpses of vulnerability. Behind the scenes, negotiations quietly began. Elon's lawyers explored possible settlements, while Elon himself weighed the cost of fighting on versus compromising his vision. The courtroom saga was no longer just a legal matter. It was a story about the limits of innovation, the power of words, and the price of ambition. The climax was building. Every testimony, every tweet, every gavel strike edged the story closer to a moment that would change everything. The question was, would Elon emerge victorious, or would this be the beginning of a downfall? The courtroom sat in a tense hush as the next witness took the stand, a longtime Tesla engineer named Sarah Jennings. She was nervous, clutching her notes but determined to speak her truth. What she revealed would shift the trial's momentum and cast new light on the man at its center. Sarah described the frantic pace inside Tesla's design labs, where innovation was constant but pressure was relentless. She told of late nights when Elon would personally oversee every detail, pushing the team to meet impossible deadlines. "He expects perfection," she said, voice steady but filled with emotion. "And when things don't go as planned, he doesn't hide from it, he faces it head-on, sometimes too harshly." Her testimony painted a portrait of Elon as a demanding leader, whose intensity inspired groundbreaking work but also created an environment of stress and uncertainty. She admitted that some tweets had been made without full consultation, reflecting Elon's impulsive nature but also his deep passion for transparency. The courtroom absorbed this duality, the visionary genius who sometimes stumbled under the weight of his own expectations. Then came the surprise. Elon's legal team presented new evidence, internal communications showing how Elon and his executives had debated the risks of public statements. They demonstrated that Elon had been warned repeatedly about the consequences but chose to tweet anyway, believing that honesty and openness were worth the risk. This revelation cut through the courtroom like a lightning bolt. It suggested a man aware of the stakes, making calculated decisions, flawed, maybe, but deliberate. Judge Harmon paused, eyes narrowing. "Mr. Musk," she said, "it appears you were not simply reckless, but knowingly defiant. Explain your reasoning." Elon stood, calm but firm. "Your Honor, my mission has always been to push humanity forward. Sometimes that means breaking conventions and being brutally honest, even if it's uncomfortable. I believe transparency builds trust. I never intended to mislead or manipulate. Yes, my methods are unorthodox, but my goal has always been to innovate responsibly. His words echoed in the courtroom, stirring a complex mix of admiration and skepticism. Outside the courtroom, reactions flooded in. Some hailed Elon's statement as a testament to his integrity. Others saw it as arrogance, a refusal to accept the rules everyone else must follow. For Elon, this moment was pivotal. The trial had peeled back layers of myth and persona, exposing the man beneath, the visionary who was also human, flawed but unyielding. But the path forward was still uncertain. Would the court see his defiance as bravery or hubris? Would the public forgive the chaos his tweets caused, or demand accountability? The next weeks promised to bring answers. But for now, the turning point was clear: Elon Musk was no longer just a disruptor in technology. He was a man confronting the very limits of his own power. The courtroom drama had paused, but Elon Musk's journey was far from over. In the days following the turning point, the trial shifted into a new phase, one that felt less like a battle of lawyers and more like an expedition into uncharted territory. For Elon, this wasn't just a legal challenge anymore. It was a profound test of his resilience and vision. Outside, the world watched as headlines splashed dramatic updates, but inside, Elon found himself facing a different kind of challenge, one that demanded introspection, strategy, and an uneasy acceptance of uncertainty. His schedule, already grueling, became a whirlwind of legal meetings, public appearances, and private moments of reflection. The pressure mounted, but so did his determination. Elon was no stranger to navigating the unknown. After all, his ventures, SpaceX's mission to Mars, Tesla's fight to redefine transportation, were built on daring to step where no one had gone before. Yet this journey felt more personal. One late night in his quiet office, Elon stared out at the twinkling city lights below. The silence was a rare contrast to the chaos he was accustomed to. For a moment, he allowed himself to feel the weight of the situation, the possibility that his empire could be shaken, that his reputation might never fully recover. But alongside the doubt was something else: hope. Hope that the truth, as messy and complicated as it was, would ultimately prevail. Elon's legal team began preparing for the next phase of the trial, digging deeper into the technicalities of social media, market regulation, and freedom of speech. They sought experts who could explain how rapidly evolving technology required new ways of thinking about old laws. Meanwhile, Elon himself started to reflect on his role. Not just as a CEO, but as a public figure whose words carried power and responsibility. The trial forced him to confront questions he had avoided for years: how much control does one person really have over the narrative? When does transparency cross into recklessness? And can a visionary leader balance boldness with accountability? The courtroom would be the arena, but the real journey was happening inside Elon's mind. This chapter of the trial introduced unexpected allies. Former critics began to voice cautious support, recognizing that Elon's ambition had sparked innovations that benefited millions. A prominent economist noted in an op-ed that while Elon's tweets were sometimes problematic, his contributions to technology and sustainability were undeniable. Yet opposition remained fierce. Regulators and investors pushed back, demanding stricter oversight and consequences. The media thrived on the drama, fueling polarized debates that echoed across social platforms and dinner tables alike. Amidst this whirlwind, Elon continued his work. SpaceX prepared for its next launch, Tesla rolled out a new electric vehicle model, and Neuralink announced breakthrough progress in brain-computer interfaces. The contrast was stark. The man standing trial was also pushing humanity's boundaries in science and technology. This paradox captured the imagination of the public. Was Elon Musk a reckless gambler or a pioneer leading the way into the future? Could the same man who defied court orders also pioneer interplanetary travel? As the trial moved forward, Elon's journey into the unknown was more than just legal, it was existential. Just when it seemed the courtroom battle might crush Elon Musk under the weight of endless scrutiny and legal pressure, a glimmer of hope emerged, unexpected and fragile, but powerful enough to shift the tide. It began with a quiet moment during a recess. Elon was reviewing notes in a small conference room when his lead attorney, Rachel Abrams, walked in with a faint smile. "We've got something," she said, her voice low but steady. "New evidence from a whistleblower inside one of the regulatory agencies." Elon looked up, surprised but alert. The trial had been a relentless uphill climb, with few breaks. This new development hinted at possible bias and procedural errors in the way the case was being handled. As Rachel laid out the details, the room seemed to grow charged with renewed energy. The whistleblower's documents suggested that some officials had a predetermined agenda against Elon, motivated by skepticism of his unconventional methods and a resistance to rapid change. The defense team immediately recognized the significance. This wasn't just a legal advantage, it was a chance to challenge the narrative that had painted Elon as reckless and irresponsible. Back in the courtroom, the atmosphere shifted. The prosecution had to acknowledge the new evidence, which called into question some of their assumptions and tactics. Judge Harmon, ever the impartial arbiter, allowed a brief delay to examine the claims. In those days of waiting, hope blossomed. Supporters of Elon took to social media with renewed vigor, flooding hashtags and forums with messages of encouragement and calls for justice. But the glimmer of hope also brought tension. The opposition dug in deeper, framing the whistleblower as unreliable, even malicious. Headlines splintered, some hailed the revelation as vindication, others as distraction. For Elon, the moment was bittersweet. The legal battle was far from over, but the evidence injected a new sense of possibility. It was a reminder that even in the darkest moments, breakthroughs can come when least expected. He found himself reflecting on the unpredictable nature of his life. From rockets that soared into the stratosphere to tweets that rocked the stock market, Elon's story was a testament to the power of persistence, and the chaos that often follows. As the trial resumed, the defense team presented the whistleblower's testimony. The courtroom was captivated as the insider described internal conflicts within the regulatory body, revealing a web of personal biases and institutional friction. The judge listened carefully, weighing the implications. The case that had once seemed stacked against Elon now had cracks appearing, holes that might be exploited to shift the balance. Yet, even with this hopeful turn, Elon knew the road ahead was still treacherous. The stakes were enormous, not just for his freedom, but for the future of innovation itself. The courtroom drama continued, a gripping saga of ambition, conflict, and the relentless pursuit of a dream. The courtroom lights seemed harsher now, casting long shadows over the faces of everyone involved. The glimmer of hope from the whistleblower's evidence was still fresh, but shadows of doubt crept in, whispers, second-guessing, and uncertainty that threatened to unravel the fragile momentum Elon Musk had gained. The prosecution was relentless. They brought in forensic experts to dissect the whistleblower's claims, questioning the authenticity of documents and the credibility of the source. Their argument was clear. This was an attempt to muddy the waters, a distraction from the real issues at hand. Elon's legal team fought back fiercely, but cracks began to show. The media shifted tone once again, now focusing on inconsistencies and unanswered questions. Was Elon truly a victim of bias, or was this just another chapter in a saga of defiance and recklessness? Inside Tesla's headquarters, the pressure was palpable. Employees whispered in hallways, some worried about the fallout, others fiercely loyal, refusing to believe the worst. Elon himself kept a tight schedule, balancing the trial's demands with the relentless pace of his businesses. Late one evening, as Elon reviewed documents in his office, a confidential message arrived, an anonymous tip that hinted at deeper layers behind the trial. It suggested that powerful interests, with ties beyond the courtroom, were influencing the proceedings. The revelation sent a chill through Elon's team. The trial was no longer just a legal battle, it was a political and corporate chess game with stakes far beyond what anyone had imagined. Judge Harmon sensed the growing complexity and tightened control over the trial. She issued new orders to keep proceedings orderly, warning both sides against further theatrics. This court seeks truth, not spectacle, she reminded sternly. Elon's frustration grew. His fight was no longer just against the charges, it was against a system that seemed rigged against him, against forces invisible but formidable. Yet, in the depths of doubt, a stubborn ember of hope remained. Elon knew that resilience had brought him this far, and only by confronting these shadows head-on could he hope to emerge stronger. As the courtroom drama unfolded, the line between friend and foe blurred. Alliances shifted, secrets surfaced, and every move was fraught with risk. Elon's journey was no longer just a story of innovation or controversy, it was a battle for truth, identity, and survival in a world where power was both weapon and shield. The courtroom had been a battlefield for weeks, with lines drawn clearly between prosecution and defense. But just when the trial seemed locked in a deadlock, an unexpected ally appeared, someone no one had anticipated, someone whose involvement would shake the foundations of the case. Her name was Emily Carter, a former SEC investigator who had quietly left the agency years before. Known for her integrity and sharp instincts, Emily had built a reputation for uncovering corruption and protecting whistleblowers. When Elon's legal team reached out to her, it wasn't just for expertise, it was because they needed someone who could see beyond the surface. Emily arrived at the courthouse with a calm confidence that contrasted with the chaos swirling around the trial. Her testimony would not only lend credibility to the whistleblower's claims but also expose systemic issues within the regulatory body itself. During the proceedings, Emily described her time at the SEC, how she had witnessed internal conflicts, political pressure, and a culture resistant to innovation. She detailed moments when career bureaucrats prioritized personal agendas over fair enforcement, especially in high-profile cases like Elon's. Her words struck a chord. Even some members of the prosecution bench shifted uncomfortably, their faces revealing doubt. The courtroom's atmosphere changed. Suddenly, the case was no longer just about Elon Musk's tweets, it was about the integrity of the entire regulatory system. Outside the courtroom, the media buzzed with headlines about the whistleblower's champion, painting Emily as a crusader for justice. Supporters of Elon seized the moment, framing the trial as a battle against outdated institutions resistant to progress. For Elon, Emily's testimony was a beacon. She articulated what he had struggled to express, that innovation often collided with bureaucracy, and change demanded courage, even at great personal cost. But the opposition was quick to respond. Critics labeled Emily a biased insider, questioning her motives and past decisions. The prosecution called their own witnesses to challenge her credibility, turning the courtroom into a battleground of competing narratives. Despite the storm, Elon found a renewed sense of hope. He saw in Emily not just a witness, but a partner in his fight, a rare ally willing to confront uncomfortable truths. Behind closed doors, Elon and Emily met briefly, sharing a moment of mutual respect. "This isn't just about me," Elon said quietly. "It's about the future we want to build." Emily nodded. "And sometimes, that future depends on rewriting the rules." The trial was far from over, but with Emily Carter's voice added to the chorus, Elon's path forward grew clearer. The battle had transformed again, not just a courtroom drama, but a movement challenging the very foundations of power, progress, and accountability. The courtroom had become a whirlwind of emotions, testimony, and sharp legal maneuvering. With Emily Carter's revelations adding weight to Elon Musk's defense, the tide seemed to shift, but the opposition was far from defeated. Instead, a rising storm of resistance and backlash grew, threatening to overwhelm everything Elon had fought for. The prosecution, regrouping quickly, intensified its attacks. They scrutinized every detail of Elon's actions, casting doubt on his judgment and motives. Expert witnesses were called to question his leadership style, painting him as impulsive, unpredictable, and a danger to investors. Social media became a battleground. Hashtags supporting Elon trended alongside those demanding accountability. Public opinion polarized further, with passionate voices on both sides. The narrative became not just about legality, but about morality, power, and what kind of future America wanted. Within Tesla and SpaceX, employees felt the strain. Rumors swirled, and morale wavered. Elon's absence during critical company moments added to the anxiety. Yet, he continued to work relentlessly, attending trial sessions during the day and company strategy meetings late into the night. One night, Elon received a call from one of his closest advisors. "The storm's growing, Elon. Some investors are nervous. They're calling for damage control." Elon paused, then said firmly, "Let them talk. We'll prove that innovation can't be chained by fear." Meanwhile, Judge Harmon maintained strict control over proceedings, refusing to allow theatrics or distractions. "This court demands respect," she reminded the lawyers. "Focus on the facts." But facts were tangled with emotion, ambition, and public spectacle. The trial revealed more about Elon's past, his relentless drive, his moments of self-doubt, and the personal sacrifices behind his successes. Testimonies showed a man pushing boundaries but also wrestling with the consequences. Elon's supporters found inspiration in these stories, while his critics saw recklessness. Amid the rising storm, a crucial moment arrived, the announcement of a new SpaceX mission that could change everything. A successful satellite launch promising to expand internet access worldwide. It was a reminder of Elon's visionary impact, a beacon amid the chaos. The courtroom buzzed with anticipation as Elon's team prepared to use this achievement to bolster their argument that his contributions outweighed his mistakes. But the storm was far from over. The next days promised more revelations, tougher questions, and a continuing battle for Elon Musk's legacy. The courtroom was electric with anticipation. After days of back and forth, the trial had reached a critical crossroads. Both sides knew the next testimony could tilt the balance, making or breaking Elon Musk's fate. Elon sat quietly, eyes steady but mind racing. This was more than a legal proceeding, it was a reckoning. The truth they sought was tangled in ambition, ego, and consequence. Today, the defense called Dr. Marcus Hayes, a respected psychologist specializing in leadership under pressure. His task was to explain the mental and emotional complexities behind Elon's public behavior. As Dr. Hayes took the stand, the courtroom fell silent. He spoke with measured clarity, detailing the immense stress and scrutiny Elon faced daily. "Leaders like Mr. Musk operate under extraordinary pressure," he explained. "Their actions can seem erratic, but they often stem from a deep commitment to their vision." Dr. Hayes described the toll of constant public exposure, the burden of expectations, and the psychological balancing act required to innovate while under fire. His testimony humanized Elon in a way previous witnesses had not. Yet, he didn't shy away from acknowledging flaws. "Impulsivity and risk-taking are double-edged swords," Dr. Hayes said. "They drive progress but can also lead to mistakes." The prosecution seized on this, arguing that Elon's impulsivity crossed into irresponsibility. They questioned whether such behavior endangered investors and the public trust. Elon listened intently, aware that every word shaped his public image. The courtroom drama felt like a mirror held up to his soul. Outside, media coverage exploded. Analysts debated the implications, some praising the nuanced portrayal of Elon's character, others criticizing it as an excuse for reckless behavior. Meanwhile, Elon reflected privately on the testimony. It was a moment of clarity. A reminder that his journey was as much internal as external. He knew he stood at a crossroads: continue pushing boundaries at any cost, or find a way to balance vision with responsibility. This realization brought a sense of calm amidst the storm. As the trial moved forward, both sides prepared for the next phase, aware that the coming days could define not just the case, but the future of leadership in the modern age. The courtroom felt heavier than ever. Weeks of relentless scrutiny and endless questions had taken their toll, not just on Elon Musk, but on everyone involved. The pressure was mounting, and the line between victory and defeat was razor-thin. Elon sat at the defense table, his face calm but eyes betraying the exhaustion beneath. His legal team looked worn but determined. Outside the courtroom, the world was watching closely, hungry for the next twist in the saga. Then came the moment no one wanted but everyone expected. A sudden, unexpected testimony from a former close associate. The witness, David Reynolds, had been a trusted advisor to Elon early in his career, but now he was testifying against him. David's words hit hard. He painted a picture of a man driven by obsession, someone who sometimes pushed too far, risking relationships and reputations. Elon's brilliance is undeniable, David admitted, but so is his volatility. The courtroom murmured. The prosecution seized on the testimony, framing it as proof of Elon's reckless disregard for consequences. Elon felt a knot tighten in his chest. The accusation struck not just at his business acumen but at his character, the foundation of his identity. Yet, even in this breaking point, there was a flicker of resilience. Elon's defense lawyer, Rachel Abrams, stood firm, challenging David's motives and credibility. She reminded the court of David's personal grievances and questioned his reliability. The exchange was intense, a battle not just of facts but of emotions and memories. Later, outside the courthouse, reporters pressed Elon for comment. He took a deep breath and spoke with measured honesty. "I'm not perfect," he said. "I've made mistakes. But I've always been committed to pushing humanity forward." Inside, Elon wrestled with conflicting emotions, regret, frustration, hope. The trial was stripping away layers, forcing him to confront who he was and who he wanted to be. As the day ended, Elon realized the fight was no longer just about winning in court, it was about reclaiming his narrative, his purpose, and his future. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? The tension in the courtroom was palpable as proceedings resumed after a brief recess. The testimony from David Reynolds still hung heavily in the air, casting shadows over Elon Musk's defense. But just as the prosecution seemed to gain the upper hand, the trial took an unexpected turn. Suddenly, a new witness was called, Sarah Mitchell, a former executive at one of Elon's companies, who had remained mostly silent throughout the trial. Her entrance was unanticipated, and whispers rippled through the courtroom. Sarah's testimony was a revelation. Calm and composed, she spoke about the pressures Elon faced from all sides, highlighting his relentless dedication to his vision despite the mounting obstacles. More importantly, she presented documents and emails showing Elon's efforts to address concerns proactively, contradicting the narrative of recklessness painted by the prosecution. Her words painted a different picture, one of a leader burdened by responsibility, constantly striving to balance innovation with caution. The courtroom atmosphere shifted. The judge, the attorneys, and even the jury listened intently as Sarah detailed moments of internal conflict and perseverance. Her credibility was beyond question, and her testimony injected new life into Elon's defense. Outside the courtroom, the media frenzy exploded. Headlines praised the unexpected witness for her courage and insight. Supporters rallied anew, and critics were forced to reconsider their stance. Elon watched from the defense table, a mixture of relief and renewed determination washing over him. This unexpected turn wasn't just a legal victory, it was a reaffirmation of his mission and character. But he knew the battle was far from over. The trial would continue to test every facet of his resolve, pushing him toward an uncertain future. As the courtroom settled into the next phase, Elon silently vowed to face whatever came next with the same relentless spirit that had brought him this far. After Sarah Mitchell's unexpected and compelling testimony, the courtroom seemed to settle into a brief lull, a calm before the storm that everyone instinctively knew was coming. Elon Musk and his team had gained some crucial ground, but the trial was far from over, and the most challenging moments still lay ahead. In these quieter days, Elon found himself reflecting deeply. Away from the flashing cameras and the relentless public scrutiny, he grappled with the personal cost of this battle. His relationships felt strained, his usual confidence tempered by fatigue and uncertainty. Late one evening, in the solitude of his office, Elon stared out at the city skyline, a sprawling web of light and possibility. The contrast between the serene night and the chaos of his life was stark. The trial wasn't just a fight for legal vindication, it was a fight for his legacy, for the future he had dedicated his life to building. He reached for his phone and sent a message to Rachel Abrams, his lead attorney. "We need to prepare for what's coming. This calm won't last." Rachel replied quickly, her words steady but somber. "Agreed. The next phase will be the hardest yet. We have to be ready." Meanwhile, behind the scenes, the opposition was regrouping. Their strategy was shifting, moving from attacking Elon's character to focusing on legal technicalities and procedural maneuvers designed to wear down the defense. The courtroom would become a chessboard of legal tactics, each move calculated and ruthless. Elon's closest confidants urged him to maintain focus and avoid distraction. "This is a marathon, not a sprint," one reminded him. "Keep your eyes on the goal." Yet, the pressure was mounting, and even Elon's resilience was being tested in new ways. As the world watched, the stage was set for the trial's next chapter, a chapter that promised revelations, confrontations, and the kind of drama that would captivate and shock the nation. The calm was fading, and the storm was gathering strength. The courtroom drama was only the surface of a much larger game, one that Elon Musk was beginning to understand in stark detail. As the trial progressed, subtle but powerful unseen forces started revealing themselves, forces far beyond legal arguments and courtroom testimony. It began with quiet phone calls and veiled warnings. Elon's legal team noticed unusual pressure on witnesses, last-minute withdrawals, and odd delays in document deliveries. Rumors swirled of backroom deals and quiet threats, tactics designed not to win the case on merit but to suffocate it under layers of bureaucracy and influence. One evening, Rachel Abrams called Elon into a private meeting. The atmosphere was tense. "We're not just fighting the prosecution anymore," she said gravely. "There are players behind the scenes, corporate interests, political operatives, who want this case to go a certain way. They don't care about truth, they care about control." Elon's jaw tightened. He had suspected as much, but hearing it confirmed was a bitter pill. "These forces are leveraging connections in government, media, even within the courts," Rachel continued. "Their goal is to wear us down, to make this impossible." Elon looked out the window, the city lights reflecting his turbulent thoughts. He'd faced countless obstacles before, but this was different. This was a systemic battle, one that questioned not just his actions but the very nature of power and influence in modern America. Determined not to be intimidated, Elon began digging deeper. Using contacts in tech and media, he sought evidence of the hidden network working against him. Days later, an anonymous tip came through, encrypted messages revealing communication between influential figures discussing strategies to manipulate public perception and court proceedings. The revelations were chilling. The media, once largely focused on Elon's tweets and business decisions, now splintered. Some outlets began investigating these shadowy influences, others doubled down on the official narrative, dismissing claims as conspiracy. In court, Elon's defense team requested a special hearing to address these interference allegations. Judge Harmon listened carefully but reminded both sides to focus on admissible evidence. The courtroom's formal decorum clashed with the explosive undercurrents beneath. Outside, supporters rallied, demanding transparency and justice. Social media exploded with debates about fairness, bias, and the role of power in shaping legal outcomes. Elon felt the weight of the moment. This trial had transcended personal stakes, it was a reflection of a broader battle for truth in an era dominated by information, influence, and hidden agendas. Despite the chaos, Elon remained resolute. "If they want a fight," he told Rachel, "we'll give them one. But on our terms." As the unseen forces tightened their grip, the real question became, could Elon Musk navigate this labyrinth of power and emerge not just legally victorious but vindicated in the court of public opinion? The storm was no longer just approaching, it had arrived. The courtroom had never felt more charged, yet there was a peculiar tension beneath the surface, an unspoken war waged not just with words but with looks, pauses, and fleeting glances. Elon Musk sat at the defense table, his eyes scanning the room as if searching for unseen threats. The trial was no longer a straightforward legal battle. It was a chess match with hidden moves, a psychological war where every word was weaponized and every silence calculated. That morning, the prosecution introduced a surprising new piece of evidence, an email thread from years ago, suggesting Elon had been warned internally about potential risks of his tweets, yet chose to ignore them. The defense countered quickly, questioning the email's authenticity and context. But as the debate grew heated, a new shadow entered the courtroom. Someone who had until now remained in the background. Judge Harmon's demeanor subtly shifted. She had been the rock of the courtroom, but now there was an edge of weariness, as if the pressures of the case were wearing her down too. Outside, the media buzzed with speculation. Commentators debated whether the judge might be influenced by the same unseen forces Elon's team had warned about. Back inside, Elon's attorney Rachel Abrams sensed a shift. "We need to be vigilant," she whispered to Elon. "This isn't just about the evidence anymore." Then came the unexpected twist. A court clerk discreetly handed Elon a note. It was brief but clear: "Be careful who you trust." Elon's mind raced. Who could have sent it? Was someone on the inside warning him? Or was it a psychological tactic to unnerve him? The trial resumed, and tension mounted. Witnesses appeared more guarded, cross-examinations grew sharper, and the courtroom atmosphere thickened with suspicion. Amid this, Elon struggled to maintain composure. The fight was no longer just legal, it was personal, mental, and emotional. He found brief solace in a quiet moment with Rachel. "This trial is testing everything," he admitted. "But I won't let it break me." Rachel nodded. "We'll expose whatever shadows are lurking here. That's our job." As the day ended, Elon left the courthouse under heavy security, the note burning in his pocket like a reminder that in this courtroom, shadows moved in every corner. The question lingered: in a trial so public yet shrouded in secrecy, who truly held the power, and who would emerge victorious when the final gavel fell? The days following the mysterious note were some of the most tense Elon Musk had ever faced. Every look seemed suspicious, every conversation felt layered with hidden meanings. The trial, once a battle of facts and figures, had morphed into a psychological battlefield where trust was the rarest commodity. But then, just when Elon thought he was isolated in a sea of uncertainty, an unexpected ally emerged. Her name was Jessica Cole, a senior court analyst who had been quietly observing the case from behind the scenes. Jessica was known for her sharp intellect and unwavering integrity, someone who rarely stepped into the limelight but whose influence was deeply felt in the courtroom's inner workings. One afternoon, during a brief recess, Jessica approached Elon's legal team with a discreet message: "I have information that might help. But it's not something I can share openly." Rachel Abrams looked at Elon, who nodded slowly. "We're listening." That evening, in a secure conference room, Jessica laid out her revelations. She had uncovered a network of communications between certain members of the prosecution and external parties, connections that suggested attempts to manipulate evidence and sway witnesses. Her evidence was detailed and alarming. Phone records, email exchanges, and meeting notes that pointed to a coordinated effort to undermine Elon's defense. "This goes beyond the courtroom," Jessica warned. "It's an orchestrated campaign designed to control the outcome." The room fell silent. Elon felt a surge of both relief and resolve. Relief that he was not alone, resolve to fight not just for himself but for truth. Rachel quickly devised a plan. They would bring Jessica's findings to Judge Harmon, but carefully. Any misstep could backfire, turning their ally into a target. The next day, Elon's team requested a private hearing to present the new evidence. The courtroom buzzed with anticipation. Everyone sensed that the tide might be turning. Judge Harmon listened intently as Rachel detailed the interference uncovered by Jessica. The judge's expression hardened, a reminder that beneath her courtroom composure was a fierce commitment to justice. After a tense pause, Judge Harmon granted a motion for an independent investigation into the allegations. The announcement sent shockwaves through the legal community and media alike. For the first time, the trial expanded beyond Elon's actions to question the integrity of the entire process. Elon felt a renewed sense of hope. The unexpected ally had illuminated a path through the darkness. But he also knew the battle was far from over. The coming weeks would test every ounce of strength and courage he possessed. As the courtroom drama took on new dimensions, one thing was clear: the truth was fighting back, and Elon Musk was no longer alone. The courtroom had transformed into a battlefield of revelations. The judge's order for an independent investigation sent shockwaves through the legal and media spheres. The eyes of the world were glued to every development, every nuance of the unfolding drama. Elon Musk sat poised, knowing that the trial was approaching its tipping point. Jessica Cole's evidence had cracked open a hidden world of manipulation, but with it came new risks. Powerful interests, feeling the ground shift beneath their feet, began to push back with subtle yet aggressive tactics. Anonymous threats, leaked misinformation, and strategic delays emerged as weapons in this intensified war. Rachel Abrams and her team worked tirelessly, coordinating with independent investigators and experts to protect their case's integrity. "We're in the eye of the storm now," Rachel told Elon during one late-night strategy session. "Everything we do counts more than ever." Elon's resolve was ironclad. The personal toll was evident: his days were longer, his nights shorter, and the strain visible, but he refused to falter. His belief in the truth was his anchor. Meanwhile, the prosecution scrambled to adapt, their confidence shaken but not broken. They launched a campaign to discredit Jessica, questioning her motives and credentials, attempting to turn public opinion against her. The courtroom became a theater of tension, with each side jockeying for advantage. Witnesses who had once been silent now stepped forward, emboldened by the unfolding investigation. Some spoke of coercion, others of ethical concerns, all adding layers to a complex narrative. Outside, social media erupted with debates and hashtags. Supporters of Elon framed the trial as a fight against corruption, critics remained skeptical, demanding accountability. Amid the chaos, Elon found unexpected moments of clarity. In conversations with Rachel and Jessica, he realized that this was bigger than him. It was a struggle for transparency in a world too often controlled by hidden agendas. One pivotal day, the independent investigation released a preliminary report. The findings confirmed instances of undue influence and interference in the trial, validating Jessica's revelations. The report's impact was immediate and profound. Judge Harmon addressed the courtroom with a renewed sense of purpose. "This court will not tolerate any attempt to undermine justice. We will proceed with the utmost fairness and vigilance." The trial's trajectory shifted. The prosecution faced new scrutiny, and the defense gained momentum. Elon's chances of a fair hearing improved, but the stakes remained sky-high. As the courtroom drama neared its crescendo, Elon prepared himself for the final chapters of this epic saga, ready to confront whatever truth lay ahead. The tipping point had arrived, and with it, the promise of justice in the balance. The courtroom was a pressure cooker, every session heavier than the last. With the independent investigation's preliminary report confirming manipulation and interference, the prosecution's carefully constructed case began to unravel in plain sight. Elon Musk sat quietly at the defense table, watching as witness after witness took the stand. Many, previously silenced by fear or pressure, now spoke candidly about the behind-the-scenes efforts to sabotage the trial. Their stories exposed a tangled web of lies, coercion, and deceit. Rachel Abrams expertly wove these testimonies into a compelling narrative. "Ladies and gentlemen of the jury," she told the court during one emotional session, "this is not just a trial about one man's tweets or business decisions. This is a trial about truth, integrity, and justice." The prosecution's star witnesses faltered under cross-examination, their credibility eroding with each question. Emails were revealed showing directives from high-level officials aimed at shaping the trial's outcome. The media coverage turned sharply in Elon's favor. Editorials called for transparency and accountability, and public support surged. Social media buzzed with the hashtag Justice for Elon, reflecting a growing belief that the case had been tainted from the start. Despite the momentum, Elon's team remained cautious. The unraveling was far from complete, and the opposition's remaining strength was dangerous and unpredictable. One afternoon, a bombshell witness appeared, someone from within the opposition's camp, willing to testify under protection. This individual provided insider details about coordinated efforts to suppress evidence favorable to Elon and to discredit his character at all costs. The courtroom was stunned. The witness's revelations were graphic and deeply personal, underscoring the lengths to which unseen forces had gone to influence the trial. Judge Harmon's gaze swept the room, her voice steady but firm. The court takes these allegations seriously. We will ensure that justice is served without bias or external influence. The atmosphere was electric, a palpable sense of shift hanging in the air. Elon's face showed a rare flicker of vulnerability, but beneath it lay unwavering determination. Outside, crowds gathered, chanting and holding signs supporting Elon. The trial had become more than a legal proceeding, it was a cultural moment, a reckoning. As the courtroom drama reached this critical phase, Elon prepared for what he knew would be the most challenging moments yet. The unraveling was exposing truths that could change everything, not just for him, but for the system itself. The courtroom buzzed with an intensity that was almost palpable. After weeks of revelations and mounting evidence, the trial had reached what everyone instinctively recognized as its breaking point. Elon Musk sat quietly, a calm facade masking the storm raging inside. He had fought long and hard, but this was the moment that would define everything. Rachel Abrams paced the defense table, her eyes sharp and unwavering. She knew the importance of this phase, it was where the narrative would solidify, where doubt would be cast, and where the jury's hearts might finally sway. Everything depends on how we handle the next witnesses, she whispered to Elon during a brief recess. The prosecution is digging deep, trying to find anything at all, that can break your resolve. Elon nodded. I'm ready, he replied. No matter what comes next. The courtroom doors swung open as the prosecution called their next witness, a figure with a reputation for unshakable credibility, a former executive who had worked closely with Elon years ago. The man's testimony was meant to be the prosecution's final blow, a damning account meant to dismantle Elon's defense. But as the witness took the stand, the atmosphere shifted. The man hesitated, his gaze flickering nervously between the lawyers. Then, in a moment that stunned everyone, he began to falter. His story, once rehearsed and sure, started to crumble under the precise questioning of Rachel Abrams. Are you certain of the facts? Rachel asked, her tone measured but firm. Because what you're describing contradicts earlier statements and documented evidence. The witness's confidence cracked, and as he stumbled through his answers, whispers spread throughout the courtroom. Outside, reporters scrambled to capture the moment. This was no longer just a trial, it was a spectacle, a narrative unfolding in real time that captivated the nation. Elon felt a surge of hope. The breaking point had arrived, not for him to fall, but for the truth to emerge. Later that day, in a private meeting with his legal team, Elon allowed himself a rare moment of reflection. This fight has changed me, he admitted. It's forced me to confront not just the legal challenges, but the personal ones. I've had to face doubts, betrayals, and fears I never expected. Rachel placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. And yet, here you are, standing strong. That's what will make the difference. As the trial moved toward its conclusion, the tension was electric. The breaking point was not the end, it was the beginning of the final chapter in a story that had captured the world's attention. Elon Musk was ready to face it head-on. The air inside the courtroom was thick with anticipation. Every word, every glance, every breath seemed magnified as the trial neared its conclusion. Elon Musk sat with a quiet determination, his eyes fixed ahead, knowing that the verdict was looming just around the corner. Weeks of testimony, cross-examinations, and legal maneuvers had brought the case to this pivotal moment. The public had been captivated, the media swirling with speculation, and now it was up to the jury to decide. Rachel Abrams leaned over to Elon during a break and whispered, "We've laid out the facts. Now, it's about how the jury sees the man behind the headlines." Elon nodded. "I've never wanted this to be just about me. It's about what's right, about transparency, about standing up to forces that try to control the narrative." The prosecution, sensing their time was running out, made one last attempt to sway the jury. They painted a picture of recklessness and irresponsibility, emphasizing the potential consequences of Elon's actions on markets and investors. But the defense countered with equal passion, highlighting the systemic pressures Elon had faced, the manipulations revealed during the investigation, and his genuine efforts to innovate and push boundaries. As closing arguments concluded, the judge delivered her final instructions. The weight of those words settled over the courtroom like a heavy fog. Outside, supporters and detractors alike gathered, waiting anxiously for news. The world had become a collective witness to this unprecedented trial. Inside, Elon felt the familiar mixture of hope and uncertainty. He knew the journey had been transformative, but he also understood that the verdict would not just affect his future, it could reshape public trust in justice itself. When the jury finally filed back into the courtroom, a hush fell over the room. The foreperson stood and began to read the decision. Every word seemed to echo in Elon's ears. The tension was unbearable. Then, a moment that would be remembered for years to come, the verdict. The courtroom held its breath. The jurors, weary but resolute, had spent countless hours deliberating, weighing every piece of evidence, every testimony, every nuance of the case. Now, their verdict would be the moment of truth, an answer that would ripple far beyond these walls. Judge Harmon's voice was calm but commanding as she called the court to order. "Will the foreperson please stand and deliver the verdict?" The foreperson, a composed woman in her mid-40s, rose slowly, her eyes briefly meeting Elon's before turning to face the judge. "Your Honor, members of the jury, we the jury find the defendant." A hush fell over the room, thick with anticipation. "Not guilty on all charges." For a moment, the words seemed to hang in the air, suspended between disbelief and relief. Elon's eyes widened, the weight of months of tension lifting in an instant. Rachel Abrams let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding and gave Elon a brief, encouraging nod. A ripple of murmurs spread among the spectators. Some faces showed disbelief, others quiet acceptance, and many a sense of vindication. Judge Harmon nodded solemnly. "This court thanks the jury for their diligent service. This case is now concluded." As the gavel struck, Elon felt a flood of emotions. The fight had been long and grueling, but the truth had prevailed. He glanced toward Jessica Cole, whose quiet support had been a beacon throughout, and allowed himself a small, genuine smile. Outside, the crowd erupted. Supporters cheered, cameras flashed, and reporters clamored to capture the moment. The trial that had captivated a nation had reached its dramatic conclusion. In the days that followed, Elon addressed the public with a carefully measured statement. "This experience has taught me more about resilience, justice, and the power of truth than I ever imagined. While this chapter closes, the journey toward transparency and fairness continues." The verdict sent shockwaves through the legal world, sparking discussions about the influence of power, media, and the courts. But for Elon, it was also a personal turning point, a chance to rebuild, refocus, and move forward with lessons hard-earned. As the dust settled, the question remained, what would come next for the man who had weathered the storm and emerged victorious? The courtroom was empty now, silent except for the faint echoes of the gavel that had sealed the verdict. Elon Musk sat alone in a small conference room adjacent to the courtroom, the weight of recent events settling over him like a heavy fog lifting at last. Months of relentless scrutiny, tension, and uncertainty had culminated in this moment of quiet reflection. Rachel Abrams knocked gently on the door before stepping in, her expression a mix of exhaustion and relief. "You did it," she said softly. We did it. Elon managed a weary smile. We all did. But the fight wasn't just about the trial. It was about something bigger, about truth, fairness, and standing up when the system seems stacked against you. Jessica Cole joined them shortly after, her eyes bright despite the long hours. Your courage to stand firm inspired many, Elon. It reminded me why justice matters, not just in theory but in practice. The team sat together, each lost in thought. The media frenzy outside was a distant hum compared to the calm inside. For Elon, this was a time to process what had happened, to look inward after the storm. In the days that followed, Elon's public statements emphasized themes of resilience, integrity, and hope. Interviews, speeches, and social media posts all echoed a message that transcended the courtroom drama. Life was unpredictable, but perseverance and honesty were the true north. He spoke candidly about the personal toll, the sleepless nights, the moments of doubt, the fear of losing everything. Yet, he also acknowledged the unexpected allies who had appeared along the way, proving that even in dark times, hope could be found. Friends and family reached out, their support a vital balm. Yet, Elon knew the journey ahead was still long. The trial had changed him, it had forced a reckoning not only with external challenges but with his own values and priorities. The public's perception of Elon shifted too. No longer just a controversial tech mogul, he became a symbol of resilience, a person who had faced immense pressure and emerged not just unbroken but enlightened. At a private gathering with close confidants, Elon reflected aloud, this trial stripped away the noise, the distractions. It forced me to focus on what really matters, truth, integrity, and the people who stand by you when it counts. Rachel nodded. And those lessons will guide you moving forward. The world is watching, and your story will inspire many. As the dust settled on this chapter of his life, Elon felt a renewed sense of purpose. The courtroom battle was over, but the journey toward building a better, more transparent future had only just begun. What if you lost everything, and the world turned its back on you? Elon Musk had once asked himself in the darkest hours of the trial. Now, standing outside the courthouse, bathed in the late afternoon sun, he knew the answer. You rise. You rebuild. You become more than the sum of your struggles. The verdict was not just a legal victory, it was a moment of rebirth. For Elon, the months of uncertainty, fear, and relentless battle had forged a new clarity, a renewed commitment to transparency, to truth, and to using his voice for more than personal gain. Jessica Cole, standing nearby, caught his eye and smiled. This is just the beginning, she said. He nodded. It has to be. In the weeks that followed, Elon announced initiatives focused on corporate accountability and ethical leadership. He became an outspoken advocate for fairness in business and transparency in the justice system, speaking at conferences, engaging with lawmakers, and collaborating with watchdog groups. Rachel Abrams, now a trusted advisor and close friend, stood by his side as they launched a foundation aimed at protecting whistleblowers and promoting legal integrity. This foundation, Rachel explained at their first event, is about giving voice to truth and protecting those who risk everything to stand up for it. The public response was overwhelmingly positive. People saw Elon not just as a billionaire or innovator, but as a symbol of resilience and redemption. His story resonated deeply, a reminder that even the most powerful face trials that test the very core of who they are. Experts weighed in, analyzing the trial's broader implications. Legal analyst Dr. Maria Jenkins noted, this case highlighted the intricate dance between power, media, and justice in modern America. Elon Musk's ordeal revealed vulnerabilities in our system but also underscored the importance of perseverance and truth. As Elon reflected on the journey, he shared a final thought. Life will throw challenges at you, sometimes when you least expect it. But it's how you respond, how you hold on to your values, that defines you. The courtroom was a battlefield, but it was also a classroom. The story of Elon Musk's trial had captivated a nation, sparked debates, and ultimately, inspired hope. It was a testament to the human spirit's capacity to endure, evolve, and emerge stronger. As the sun set on this chapter, Elon felt ready for whatever came next. Because now, with hard-won wisdom and unshakable resolve, he was not just facing a new beginning, he was shaping it. The courtroom doors had closed behind Elon Musk, but his journey was far from over. In many ways, the trial was just the beginning, a catalyst that propelled him into new arenas of influence and responsibility. With the verdict secured, Elon faced a new challenge, rebuilding trust not just with the public, but within the intricate networks of business, politics, and innovation that shaped his world. One afternoon, at his sprawling headquarters, Elon gathered with key advisors and partners. The energy was different now, more focused, more purposeful. They brainstormed initiatives that would extend beyond corporate success to embrace social responsibility, transparency, and ethical innovation. "We can't just bounce back to business as usual," Elon asserted. "This moment demands leadership that's accountable and visionary." Jessica Cole, now deeply involved in strategic planning, added, "People want to believe in you. But that belief has to be earned, through actions, openness, and genuine change." Their discussions led to the launch of several ambitious projects, programs aimed at fostering ethical AI development, improving workplace equity, and enhancing corporate governance standards across industries. Meanwhile, Elon's public profile evolved. No longer just a tech icon or controversial figure, he became a vocal advocate for systemic reform. He testified before Congress, sharing insights about how legal and regulatory frameworks could better protect innovators while ensuring fairness. The media followed closely, documenting his speeches, initiatives, and philanthropic efforts. The narrative shifted from scandal to redemption, from controversy to commitment. But the path was not without hurdles. Old adversaries lurked, waiting for missteps. New challenges arose, testing Elon's resilience in unexpected ways. In one high-profile incident, a whistleblower from within one of Elon's companies alleged unethical practices. The situation was delicate. A potential public relations nightmare that required swift, transparent action. Elon faced it head-on. He ordered a full internal investigation, collaborated with independent auditors, and publicly committed to transparency. "Mistakes can happen," he said in a press conference, "but how we respond defines us." The response was widely praised, reinforcing the message that Elon was serious about change. At the same time, Elon invested heavily in mentoring young entrepreneurs and activists, sharing lessons learned from his own trials. "Innovation isn't just technology," he often said. "It's about creating a culture where truth and integrity are as important as profits." As the years passed, Elon's efforts sparked meaningful shifts. Companies began adopting more rigorous ethical standards, governments considered new laws inspired by his advocacy, and a new generation of leaders emerged, empowered, aware, and determined to do better. Looking back, Elon recognized that the courtroom battle had been a crucible, one that transformed not only his life but also his vision for the future. Standing on a stage at a global innovation summit, Elon addressed thousands of attendees. "We all face trials, personal, professional, societal. What matters is that we don't let those trials define us. Instead, we use them to learn, to grow, and to lead with integrity." The applause was thunderous, a testament not just to the man on stage but to the story of resilience and hope he embodied. Beyond the courtroom, Elon Musk had become more than a man fighting a trial. He had become a symbol of transformation, a beacon for those navigating the complex intersection of power, truth, and responsibility. The journey was ongoing, but one thing was clear: the new chapter was being written every day, in every decision, every action, every commitment to a better tomorrow. The courtroom saga was over, but its reverberations were just beginning to spread through society like ripples across a still pond. Elon Musk's trial had become more than a headline. It was a catalyst for change, inspiring debates, reforms, and new ways of thinking about power, justice, and accountability. In the months after the verdict, conversations ignited in boardrooms, newsrooms, and living rooms alike. Leaders in business and government grappled with questions raised by the trial: how much influence should one person wield? What safeguards are necessary to protect the truth? And how do we balance innovation with responsibility? Elon, now regarded as both a victor and a visionary, found himself at the center of these discussions. His advocacy for transparency and ethical leadership gained traction, but it also stirred controversy. Some critics dismissed his efforts as PR moves, while others genuinely embraced the opportunity for systemic reform. At a major conference on corporate governance, Elon took the stage amid applause and scrutiny. "Power without accountability is dangerous," he declared. "But accountability without vision can stifle progress. Our challenge is to find the balance, where innovation thrives within ethical boundaries." His words resonated, sparking new initiatives across industries. Companies began re-examining their practices, instituting policies to increase transparency, improve whistleblower protections, and foster ethical cultures. Meanwhile, lawmakers introduced bills inspired by lessons from the trial, aiming to strengthen regulations on corporate disclosures and social media conduct, areas that had come under intense scrutiny. In academia, the case became a teaching point in ethics and law courses. Students debated the nuances of justice, media influence, and leadership under pressure. Social media buzzed with renewed interest in corporate accountability. Hashtags calling for reform trended, fueled by a generation eager for change. Elon, however, remained grounded. "Change takes time," he often reminded audiences. "But every small step matters." Back at his company, new leadership initiatives reflected this ethos. Transparency reports were published regularly. Open forums encouraged employee voices. Ethical guidelines were embedded into product development cycles. Jessica Cole, reflecting on the journey, said, "What started as a personal trial became a movement." Elon's story showed that even those at the top can, and must, be held accountable. But change was not without resistance. Some industry giants pushed back, fearing loss of control or increased scrutiny. Elon navigated these waters carefully, building coalitions and fostering dialogue. In quieter moments, he pondered the paradox of influence, the responsibility that came with it, and the constant tension between public expectation and personal conviction. At a charity gala supporting legal reform, Elon shared a poignant insight with attendees: the courtroom was just one arena. The real fight is ongoing, in our institutions, in our communities, and within ourselves. The ripple effect was clear: a trial had sparked a wider reckoning with power and ethics in the modern age. As Elon looked ahead, he embraced his role not just as a business leader but as a catalyst for a more just and transparent future. The journey was far from over. The ripples would continue, touching lives, shaping policies, and challenging assumptions for years to come. And in that unfolding story, Elon Musk was determined to be more than a figure of controversy. He would be a force for meaningful change. The courtroom battle was a defining chapter in Elon Musk's life, but it was only one of many frontiers he would face. As the dust settled on the legal storm, a new horizon emerged. One filled with opportunities and challenges that tested not only his intellect but also his character and vision. Elon stood in the control room of SpaceX, watching the launch countdown for the latest mission. The hum of the consoles, the chatter of engineers, and the palpable anticipation filled the air. This was a world where precision mattered, where the future was literally being built one rocket at a time. But for Elon, the mission carried deeper significance. It symbolized rebirth, a chance to move beyond past struggles and focus on what truly inspired him: exploration, innovation, and pushing the limits of possibility. "Ready for liftoff," the mission director announced. As the rocket soared into the sky, Elon allowed himself a brief smile. This wasn't just about technology or business. It was about hope for a future where humanity reached for the stars, guided by integrity and purpose. Yet, even as he celebrated progress, new challenges beckoned. The world around him was evolving rapidly, with emerging technologies, geopolitical tensions, and ethical dilemmas demanding thoughtful navigation. At Tesla, the push towards sustainable energy faced hurdles, from supply chain disruptions to regulatory pressures. Elon knew that leadership now meant adaptability and empathy, balancing bold vision with the realities on the ground. He convened a meeting with top executives. Innovation isn't just invention, he said. It's about understanding people, communities, and our planet. We must lead with heart as much as with mind. Jessica Cole, ever the strategic thinker, added, this means cultivating culture, inside and outside our walls, that embraces transparency, diversity, and collaboration. Beyond business, Elon devoted time to mentorship, meeting with young innovators and activists eager to make a difference. He shared stories of failure and resilience, emphasizing that setbacks were part of growth. One young entrepreneur asked, how do you stay grounded amid so much pressure? Elon replied thoughtfully, by remembering why you started. By holding on to your values even when it's hard. And by knowing that every challenge is an opportunity to learn. His personal life, too, found new rhythms. Time with family and close friends became sacred, moments of joy and reflection amid the whirlwind of responsibilities. The courtroom ordeal had taught him the importance of balance, between public and private, ambition and humility. In public forums, Elon spoke candidly about mental health, stress, and the human side of leadership, breaking down barriers that often left such topics in the shadows. He also championed global collaboration on issues like climate change and space exploration, believing that humanity's greatest challenges required united efforts. At an international summit, Elon addressed world leaders. Our future depends on cooperation, on putting aside divisions to focus on common goals. The stars don't belong to one nation or person, they belong to all of us. His vision was bold, but grounded in the lessons of his journey, of trial, redemption, and growth. As the sun set on another demanding day, Elon stood on the balcony of his home, looking up at the stars. The vastness of space reminded him of the endless frontiers ahead, external and internal. He whispered to himself, the real journey is never over. It's about facing new frontiers, with courage, with honesty, and with hope. And with that, Elon Musk stepped forward once more, ready to lead, to learn, and to inspire a future where possibility and integrity walked hand in hand. Years had passed since the courtroom drama that had captivated the nation, yet for Elon Musk, the echoes of that pivotal time remained a defining force. The trial had tested him in ways no boardroom challenge or technological hurdle ever could. But it was through that trial that Elon found not only redemption but also a deeper understanding of his legacy. Sitting in his private study, surrounded by models of rockets and electric cars, Elon reflected on the journey. The headlines, the accusations, the public scrutiny, it had all been a crucible that forged a new version of himself. He remembered the judge's stern rebuke in court, this is a courtroom, not a Twitter thread. The words had stung then, but with time, they became a turning point. They reminded him of the power of words, the responsibility that came with influence, and the importance of humility. Elon's relationship with the media had evolved too. What once was a battlefield of misunderstandings and sensationalism had transformed into a dialogue, sometimes tense, sometimes hopeful, but always real. At a recent interview, a young journalist asked, "What does legacy mean to you now?" Elon paused, considering carefully. "Legacy isn't about what you build or how much money you make," he said. "It's about the impact you have on people, on society, and on the future. It's about the stories that inspire others to do better." His philanthropic work had expanded dramatically. Foundations he supported focused on education, environmental sustainability, and social justice. Elon was particularly passionate about programs empowering underprivileged youth to pursue STEM careers, believing that nurturing future innovators was the greatest gift he could offer. Jessica Cole, his longtime confidant and advisor, noted, Elon's journey from controversy to redemption resonated deeply. It showed that even the most flawed among us can grow and make a positive difference. At public speaking events, Elon shared candid stories of failure and perseverance, emphasizing that mistakes were not endpoints but stepping stones. He became an advocate for mental health awareness in high-pressure industries, urging leaders to foster environments of support and openness. The companies Elon led embraced new standards of ethics and transparency, reflecting the hard-earned lessons of the past. Yet, Elon also acknowledged the complexity of legacy. "I'm not perfect," he often said. "There are things I wish I'd done differently. But I hope that my willingness to learn and to change will be part of the story." Friends and family saw the transformation most clearly. Elon was more patient, more reflective, and deeply committed to meaningful connections. In one quiet moment, watching his children play in the garden, he realized that legacy was also about love, the intangible bonds that outlast achievements and headlines. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Elon penned a letter to his future self, a habit he had started during the trial. It read, in part, "Remember who you are beneath the noise. Stay curious, stay humble, and always seek to lift others. The world is bigger than any one person, but together, we can reach the stars." That letter encapsulated the man Elon had become, a visionary tempered by experience, a leader shaped by trials, and a human who understood that redemption was not a destination but a continuous journey. The courtroom may have been the stage for his greatest challenge, but the legacy he was building extended far beyond its walls. And as history would show, Elon Musk's story was one of transformation, a testament to the power of resilience, growth, and the enduring hope that every ending is also a new beginning. The courtroom was silent once more. But this time, Elon Musk stood not as a defendant under scrutiny, but as a man transformed, his past trials woven into a tapestry of growth, resilience, and hope. It had been years since the judge's sharp words echoed through those hallowed halls. "This is a courtroom, not a Twitter thread." Those words, once biting, had become a catalyst for change. They marked the moment Elon chose to confront not only the legal battle but the deeper challenges within himself. Now, standing at a public forum addressing young innovators, Elon shared his story candidly, with humility and insight. "Power is a privilege, not a right," he said. "It demands responsibility, transparency, and the courage to admit when you're wrong." The crowd listened intently, inspired by the journey they had followed through headlines, controversies, and ultimately redemption. Jessica Cole, watching from the side, knew how far they had come. From the chaos of that first trial to the steady commitment to integrity, the path had been winding but purposeful. After the forum, Elon stepped outside to gaze up at the night sky, a vast expanse of stars, a reminder of endless possibilities and the unknown journeys ahead. He thought of the long road behind him. The battles, the losses, the moments of doubt, and the triumphs forged through perseverance. And he understood, deeply, that every ending was simply a new beginning. The courtroom that once symbolized conflict now represented a turning point, a full circle where past mistakes met future promise. Elon smiled quietly, feeling a profound sense of peace. Because beyond the headlines and the trials, beyond the power and controversy, lay something more enduring, the human story of learning, growing, and becoming. The story of a man who faced his challenges, embraced his flaws, and chose to lead with integrity. A story that would inspire generations to come. As he walked away beneath the stars, Elon Musk knew this was just the beginning of many new chapters, each written with courage, wisdom, and hope. The courtroom drama had faded into history, but for Elon Musk, the story was far from over. The trial's end marked not a finish line but a gateway to new horizons, uncharted territories both in business and in his personal quest for meaning. Months after the final verdict, Elon found himself in a space that felt both familiar and profoundly new. His companies thrived under the renewed focus on ethics and innovation, but he knew the future demanded more than success metrics. It required visionary thinking that balanced ambition with responsibility. One morning, as the sun spilled golden light across Tesla's solar roof factory, Elon gathered his top leaders for an unexpected announcement. "We're launching Project Horizon," he declared, eyes shining with resolve. "It's a commitment to redefine sustainability, not just through technology, but by creating ecosystems where communities thrive alongside innovation." The room buzzed with excitement. Project Horizon was ambitious, integrating renewable energy, smart infrastructure, and social programs designed to uplift underserved areas while minimizing environmental impact. Jessica Cole, now deeply embedded in Elon's vision, shared, "This is the kind of holistic innovation that changes lives on a fundamental level. It's the future." But as always, new frontiers brought new challenges. The project required unprecedented collaboration across governments, corporations, and local communities. Skepticism lingered, old fears of corporate overreach, concerns about tech's role in society, and the complexity of balancing profit with purpose. Elon embraced these obstacles with characteristic determination. He traveled extensively, meeting with civic leaders, activists, and everyday people to listen, learn, and build trust. During a visit to a struggling rural town, Elon sat down with residents at a local community center. He listened to their stories, about jobs lost to automation, environmental degradation, and the yearning for a future their children could believe in. "I don't have all the answers," Elon admitted. "But I want to work with you to create solutions that respect your needs and empower your community." The humility struck a chord. Partnerships formed, ideas flowed, and Project Horizon began to take shape, not just as a corporate initiative but as a shared mission. Back at headquarters, Elon's leadership style had evolved. He encouraged open dialogue, diverse perspectives, and a culture that celebrated learning from failure as much as from success. He also committed more time to personal growth, exploring mindfulness practices and spending quiet moments with family and close friends, finding balance amid the whirlwind. The media, once consumed by his controversies, now highlighted his efforts to champion responsible innovation. Documentaries and interviews portrayed a man transformed, not perfect, but profoundly human. At a global summit on sustainability, Elon addressed delegates with passion and conviction. "We stand at a crossroads," he said. "The choices we make today will define the world for generations. Our technology must serve humanity, not the other way around." The applause was thunderous. Elon's journey, from courtroom battles to visionary leadership, had inspired a new narrative about power, responsibility, and hope. As night fell, Elon looked out over the city lights, each one a symbol of possibility. The path ahead was vast, uncertain, but ripe with promise. He smiled, ready to face whatever came next. Because New Horizons were not just about discovery, they were about creating a future where innovation and integrity walked hand in hand. And that future was just beginning. As Project Horizon gained momentum, Elon Musk quickly realized that innovation was as much about relationships as it was about technology. Building a future that balanced ambition with responsibility meant navigating a delicate web of alliances, conflicts, and unexpected challenges. One crisp autumn morning, Elon convened a meeting with leaders from government agencies, environmental groups, and tech innovators. The room was tense. Years of mistrust and competing interests created invisible walls even as everyone talked about collaboration. "Building bridges is harder than building rockets," Elon remarked dryly, breaking the ice. "But it's necessary if we want lasting change." Jessica Cole, ever the pragmatic strategist, added, "We need to define clear boundaries and mutual goals. Otherwise, the project risks falling apart under its own complexity." The dialogue that followed was raw and honest. Environmental advocates pressed for stronger safeguards, insisting that technology shouldn't come at the cost of ecosystems. Government officials demanded accountability and transparency, wary of corporate overreach. Tech leaders advocated for rapid innovation, warning that bureaucracy could stifle progress. Elon listened intently, his mind racing to find a path forward that honored each perspective. Later that week, he sat down with Maya Hernandez, a passionate environmental scientist and longtime critic of Silicon Valley's impact on natural resources. Their conversation was charged with tension but underscored by mutual respect. "Maya, I know trust is earned, not given," Elon said. "I want this project to set a new standard, for sustainability and for how companies engage with communities." Maya nodded slowly. "Words are easy. Actions are harder. Show me that you mean it." Taking her challenge to heart, Elon invited Maya to join Project Horizon's advisory board. Together, they spearheaded initiatives that integrated rigorous environmental assessments into every phase of development. Meanwhile, the team wrestled with internal tensions as well. Ambitious deadlines clashed with the reality of complex regulatory approvals. Engineers bristled at new protocols they felt slowed innovation, while community liaisons advocated for deeper engagement. Jessica worked tirelessly to mediate, emphasizing that the strength of Project Horizon lay in its diverse voices and shared purpose. "We're not just building infrastructure," she reminded the team. "We're building trust. That takes patience and empathy." Elon also reached out to critics who had once been outspoken opponents. He arranged private meetings, listening carefully and acknowledging past missteps. Some remained skeptical, but many appreciated his willingness to engage openly. One evening, after a particularly challenging day, Elon reflected on the paradox of leadership. "Innovation requires pushing boundaries," he mused to Jessica. "But it also requires knowing where to draw lines, for ethics, for respect, for shared humanity." Jessica smiled. "It's the hardest balance to strike. But if anyone can do it, it's you." The weeks ahead brought both breakthroughs and setbacks. Pilot programs launched in select communities showed promising results: clean energy installations, job training programs, and revitalized local economies. Yet regulatory hurdles and political opposition reminded them that change was never straightforward. Through it all, Elon's commitment to openness and collaboration became a beacon. He shared regular updates via forums and social media, inviting feedback and fostering dialogue. One viral moment captured him candidly admitting, "We don't have all the answers. But we're learning, together." The public responded with a mix of hope and scrutiny, reflecting the complexity of the times. As Project Horizon forged ahead, it became clear that success would depend not just on technology, but on the willingness to bridge divides and respect boundaries. And for Elon Musk, that was the newest, and perhaps most challenging, frontier of all. The weight of leadership settled heavily on Elon Musk's shoulders as Project Horizon moved into its most critical phase. Months of building alliances and forging partnerships had yielded significant progress, but trust, fragile and elusive, remained both their greatest asset and most daunting challenge. One afternoon, Elon received an unexpected call from David Harper, a longtime investor and friend who had supported many of Elon's ventures from the early days. "Elon, we need to talk," David's voice was steady but tinged with concern. "There's something happening behind the scenes with the board and some of the new partners. Things aren't as solid as they seem." Elon's brow furrowed. "What do you mean?" David hesitated. "There are talks of pulling back support. Some fear the project is spreading too thin, too ambitious, too risky. And there's pressure to prioritize short-term profits over long-term goals." The news hit like a shockwave. Elon had known that balancing vision with reality would be hard, but the possibility of betrayal from within was a sting he hadn't anticipated. That evening, Elon called an emergency meeting with Jessica Cole and the core leadership team. "We're at a crossroads," Elon began, his voice steady but resolute. "Trust is breaking down. We must decide, do we double down on our principles or bend to pressures that could compromise everything we've built?" Jessica nodded. "The board's concerns are real, but so is our mission. We need transparency and a clear plan to rebuild confidence." Over the next several days, Elon reached out individually to key stakeholders, listening openly and addressing fears without defensiveness. He also convened a public town hall where community members, partners, and employees could voice their concerns. "I understand the stakes," Elon said candidly. "This project is bigger than any one person or company. It's about our shared future. And that future depends on trust we must earn every day." Amidst the tension, a surprising ally emerged. Maya Hernandez, once a skeptic, publicly voiced her support, emphasizing the project's potential impact and urging patience. Her endorsement shifted the narrative, bolstering morale and encouraging others to stay the course. But not all voices were so supportive. Leaked documents suggested internal dissent, fueling media speculation and threatening to derail momentum. Elon knew he had to act decisively. He proposed a new governance structure, one that increased stakeholder representation, enhanced transparency, and ensured decisions reflected shared values. The proposal was met with cautious optimism, a testament to Elon's evolving approach to leadership. In a private moment, Jessica reflected, "This is the real test, not just of the project, but of Elon's ability to lead with integrity amid complexity." Elon felt the weight but embraced the challenge. He realized that trust was not static but a living, breathing commitment requiring constant care. As negotiations unfolded, he kept returning to a simple truth: vision without trust was a castle built on sand. The days that followed were tense but transformative. Agreements were reached, roles clarified, and a renewed sense of unity emerged. Elon's public message captured the moment: we face challenges, yes. But we also have the opportunity to redefine how innovation serves humanity, with openness, respect, and unwavering trust. The project, once on the brink, began to heal. Elon stood at the edge of a new chapter, understanding that leadership was not about perfection but about courage, the courage to face uncertainty, confront failure, and build bridges even when the path was unclear. As the sun set over the city, Elon felt a quiet resolve. The crossroads of trust had tested him deeply, but it had also made the mission, and himself, stronger. Because true innovation, he knew, wasn't just about technology. It was about people. Their hopes. Their fears. Their faith. And that faith was a fragile, powerful force, one worth fighting for. The momentum of Project Horizon was undeniable. Yet, beneath the surface, a quiet tension grew, like a storm brewing just beyond the horizon. Elon Musk had always thrived on pushing boundaries, but even he was beginning to feel the weight of expectations, the shadows of doubt creeping in. One late night in the Tesla boardroom, Elon stared out the window, the city lights flickering like distant stars. His mind raced, not with ideas of innovation, but with questions that unsettled him. Had he pushed too far? Was the relentless pace sustainable? Could he balance his vision with the real human cost? Jessica Cole entered quietly, sensing his unrest. "You've been here late every night this week," she observed gently. "What's on your mind?" Elon sighed. "I keep wondering if I'm crossing a line between visionary and reckless. The stakes are higher than ever. One misstep, and it could unravel everything." Jessica nodded, understanding the heavy burden of leadership. "It's normal to question, Elon. But doubt doesn't mean failure, it means you're aware of the risks and ready to face them." Still, the shadows lengthened. Rumors circulated about internal conflicts, teams stretched thin, morale wavering, whispers of burnout. At a Project Horizon retreat, tensions surfaced openly. Maya Hernandez voiced concerns about sustainability goals being compromised under pressure to meet deadlines. "We can't sacrifice integrity for speed," she warned. "Otherwise, we're no better than those we've criticized." Elon listened, torn between urgency and caution. His ambition to change the world wrestled with the need for patience and care. Amidst this, media scrutiny intensified. Headlines questioned whether Elon's grand vision was becoming a liability, a case study in overreach. The pressure mounted. Advisors urged caution, some even suggested scaling back. But Elon refused to retreat. In a candid team meeting, he addressed the doubts head-on. "Yes, the path is hard. Yes, we face setbacks. But if we stop now, all our work means nothing. We owe it to ourselves, and to the world, to push forward." Jessica supported him, emphasizing the importance of resilience balanced with self-care. To regain focus, Elon introduced new wellness initiatives, encouraged open communication, and restructured workloads to prevent burnout. Slowly, the shadows began to recede, replaced by renewed energy and clarity. Elon also took time for reflection, spending quiet moments away from the chaos, walking beneath the stars, reconnecting with family, and meditating on his journey. He realized that ambition without balance was a fragile dream. By embracing doubt, not as weakness but as insight, he found strength to lead with greater wisdom. Project Horizon moved forward, not as an unstoppable force, but as a living, evolving mission shaped by courage, humility, and hope. As dawn broke over the city, Elon felt ready, not just to innovate, but to inspire. Because in the shadows of doubt lay the seeds of true vision. The dawn of a new day often brings with it the promise of change. For Elon Musk and Project Horizon, this wasn't just a poetic notion, it was a lived reality. After months marked by tension, doubt, and hard-won breakthroughs, a palpable shift had begun to ripple through the project and the people behind it. Elon stood on the rooftop of Tesla's latest solar innovation center, watching as the first light spilled over the horizon. The crisp morning air carried a sense of renewal, of opportunity waiting to be seized. It was in moments like this, quiet, reflective, that the weight of past struggles gave way to the hope of what lay ahead. Jessica Cole joined him, her eyes scanning the sprawling landscape of solar panels and smart grids below. "This feels different," she said softly. "Like the project is finally coming into its own." Elon nodded. "It is. We're seeing the fruits of persistence and collaboration. But more than that, we're learning to lead not just with ambition, but with empathy and purpose." Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of Maya Hernandez, whose environmental advocacy had become a cornerstone of Project Horizon's credibility. "We just received word," Maya announced, her voice bright with excitement. "The United Nations has officially recognized Project Horizon as a model for sustainable development worldwide." The news sparked a wave of celebrations and renewed enthusiasm. The recognition validated the hard work and ethical framework Elon and his team had fought to uphold. But with accolades came new responsibilities and heightened expectations. Elon embraced the challenge. "This isn't the end," he reminded the team in a heartfelt address. "It's a new beginning. Our mission now is to scale impact, deepen community partnerships, and continue innovating responsibly." The months that followed were a whirlwind of activity. Pilot programs expanded to new regions, incorporating lessons learned and tailoring solutions to diverse cultural and environmental contexts. Technology evolved too. Advances in energy storage, AI-driven resource management, and eco-friendly materials opened fresh possibilities. Yet amid the rapid growth, Elon remained grounded. He prioritized time for reflection, family, and personal growth, realizing that sustainable change required a leader who could endure. In a private moment, Elon confided in Jessica, "I used to think change was about speed and disruption. Now I see it's about resilience and connection." Jessica smiled, recognizing the transformation not just in the project, but in Elon himself. The media narrative shifted once more. Stories highlighted the human side of innovation, the community partnerships, the environmental victories, the people whose lives had been touched. Social media buzzed with hopeful messages, inspiring a new generation of innovators and activists. Elon also took the opportunity to mentor young leaders, sharing lessons from his journey, emphasizing integrity, perseverance, and the importance of listening. One evening, as the sun set in hues of orange and pink, Elon addressed a global audience via live stream. "We are at a crossroads," he said. "But together, we can choose a path of sustainability, justice, and hope." Project Horizon is proof that when we lead with heart and mind, we can create a future worth fighting for. The applause, virtual but sincere, echoed across continents. As night fell, Elon looked once again to the stars, feeling a deep sense of gratitude and purpose. The road ahead would still be filled with challenges, but the dawn of this new era had begun. And with it, the promise of a better tomorrow. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough?